Good evening and welcome to Mrs. Spencer's Math Lab. If you're coming for the first time, I really welcome you and I pray that you will get something from what we do today. And if you're returning, keep returning. Keep returning. Before we get started, I would like for you, first of all, to adjust your sound. Secondly, to touch the little arrows on the side so that the picture will be enlarged. And thirdly, get your materials out. Today you will need pencil, paper, and a ruler or some straight edge. So while I am getting started, as a tutor, I am interested in teaching you the hard parts, the parts that you have a problem with. For example, many students come to me about what we are doing today. We are investigating integers. And students come to me because they know the rules, they can say them, but they can't apply them. So when we finish today, I hope that you can apply those rules as well as remember them. But I'm not interested in your memorizing them. I want you to understand them and be able to use them. So today, we are investigating integers. What are integers? Integers are positive and negative whole numbers and zero. On the board, I have a number line, and I'd like for you to draw a number line so that you have one to work with as I work with mine. I don't want you just to watch me. I want you to involve yourself in participating as well. Notice the line never ends because numbers never end. If we did this until eternity, we'd still be adding ones onto the numbers. All right, it's the positive whole numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on and on. It's the negative numbers and zero. The positive integers are on the right side of the zero, and the negatives are on the left side of the zero. We use these numbers all the time, but many of us don't use these numbers or don't think about them. But there are times that you automatically use them. For example, when you overdraw your bank account, $10, that's negative 10. And when you overdraw your bank account and they add a fee to it, $35. So your bank account ends up being negative $45. That's a negative. We also use negatives with temperature. For example, the lowest temperature in Alaska was 80 degrees Fahrenheit below zero. That's really a low temperature. So that would be expressed as negative 80 degrees. The lowest temperature in Hawaii was 12 degrees Fahrenheit. So the opposite of that temperature would be negative 12 degrees Fahrenheit. A quarterback is sacked for a loss of 8 yards. That's negative 8 yards. And in golf, I hear them say minus, but it's really negative 2. So today we're going to learn the different ways that we use the minus sign as well. As we look at this number line, as we go right, the numbers increase. As we go left, the numbers decrease. 0 is smaller than any positive number, but is larger than any negative number. Every negative number is less than every positive number. And let's get that cleared up right now. All right, and when we are increasing, we're going to the right. And when we're decreasing, we're going to the left. So increasing is going to the right. That's increasing. And decreasing goes to the left. So if we're moving to the right, even if I start at negative 10 and I start moving to the right, negative 9 is larger than negative 10, negative 8 is larger than negative 9, and so on. And 0 is larger than all of these negatives. 1 is greater than 1 is greater than 0, and as we go, we're increasing. So when we're moving to the right, we're increasing. When we're moving to the left, we are decreasing. So let's keep that in mind as we talk about this. All right, so we have the negative numbers, as I say, to the left, and the positive numbers to the right. All right, if I stopped here, that would be positive 2. We don't write the positive signs for the numbers most of the time because you've been using them all the time without putting a positive or a negative. But today we may do that just so that you remember that they are positive. Over here is negative 2. Negative 2. Negative 2. And it is 2 steps from 0. This is 2 steps from 0. So we see that negative 2 and positive 2 are the same distance from 0. And we call that the absolute value. Absolute value. And by definition, and I'm going to put the definition up here so that you can see it, absolute value is the distance an integer is from 0. And you may want to write that down. Absolute value is the distance a number is from 0. Well, what do you know about distances? Distances are always positive. So whether the number is positive or negative, its absolute value is the distance it is from 0. So let's see. The number 5, its absolute value is 5 because it's 5 steps from 0. And negative 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, its absolute value is also 5. And the symbol for absolute value is this. So if I put 5 in here, that says the absolute value of 5. And that value is 5. But also the absolute value of negative 5 is also 5. So remember, because we're going to use the absolute value as we work with this, and we are going to be certain to make sure that you understand how we use it. So absolute value is the distance an integer is from 0. Another thing we can say about 5 and negative 5, they are opposites. They are opposites. All right, they are opposites. Negative 5 and positive 5 are opposites. So if you get an equation and the answer is supposed to be negative 5 and you write 5, it's incorrect because negative 5 is over here on the left side of 0 and positive 5 is over there on the right side. So the signs of the numbers are very important and they must be correct. All right, so absolute value is the distance an integer is from 0. And it's always positive because distance is positive. All right, so let's go on and see if we can start to do some addition of the numbers. All right, so let's do positives first. Remember, if it's positives, we're going right. If it's negative, we're going left. All right, let's say 2 plus 4. Well, you already know what the answer is, but I want you to use your number line, and I want you to get used to using it because we're going to really need it when we get a little further. So we always start at 0. And we go 1, 2. And the second number is positive 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the answer is 6. All right. 3 plus 1. And we know the answer. But let's get used to using the number line. 0, 1, 2, 3 plus positive 1. That's 1 over. That's 4. All right, we can go on and add other numbers. Let's do 6 plus 3. Use your number line. And we know that the answer is 9. But I want you to do this. Start at 0 and go to 6 and then add 3 more. And we're at 9. So actually we see that what we've been doing is adding positives all the time. So when we add a positive number, the answer is positive. And we just simply added the numbers. 2 plus 4 is 6. That's positive 2 plus positive 4 is 6. Positive 3 plus positive 1 is 4. Say with me. Positive 6 plus positive 3 is 9. And we could go on and on. But you've been used to adding those numbers all the time. All right, so now let's change it. And let's do some negative addition. All right, let's do negative 2 plus, and I'm going to put this in parentheses, negative 4. And I'm doing the parentheses because I don't want the plus sign and the minus sign to just be hanging out together. Negative 2 plus negative 4. Do not say minus 2 plus minus 4. We are not subtracting anyway. We are adding. Negative 2 plus negative 4. All right, so we start at 0, go to negative 2, then go 4 steps over. 1, 2, 3, 4. In the negative, so we're going left. So what is the answer? We ended up on negative 6. All right, let's do negative 5 plus negative 3. All right, start at 0. Negative 5, and then we're going 3 more negative jumps. 1, 2, 3. And that's negative 8. All right, let's do negative 6 plus negative 2. And that's start at 0. Notice I always start here. Go to negative 6 and then go negative 2 steps over. 1, 2. So the answer is negative 8 again. All right, let's do negative 3 plus negative 2. And I'm keeping the numbers simple because I want you to get the process and the concept and not have to worry about the numbers. All right, we start at 0, we go negative 3, and then plus negative 2. And the answer is negative 5. All right, so I'm going to put a bigger one up here and see that's not on my number line and see if you have the concept. Let's do negative 20 plus negative 10. See if you can do that without the number line. And that tells me that you are understanding what's going on. All right, what answer did you get? All right, we're going negative 20 and then negative 10, and we're adding the absolute value of 10 of these. Absolute value of 10 is 10, and negative 10 is 10. The absolute value of negative 20 is 20. 20 plus 10 is 30. And because I'm adding two negatives, it's negative 30. All right, did you get that? All right, that seems to be pretty easy, because what we're saying is when you add two negatives, you get a negative answer, and you merely add the absolute values of the numbers. And when you're adding two positives, you get a positive answer, because what you're doing is going in the positive direction twice, and you get a positive answer, and you add the numbers. All right? I hope that you are following me. So let's look at when we have the signs that are not alike. And that's going to be just as easy. Let's keep our minds positive. All right, suppose we had, for example, negative 3 plus 4. So let's go to number line. Start at 0, 1, 2, 3. Then we want to go 4 in the positive direction. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the answer is 1. Okay. Let's do another one. Let's do 3 plus negative 5. Okay, so we start at 0. We go to positive 3. And then we go negative 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the answer is negative 2. All right, are you doing this on your number line with me? I don't want you just watching me. I want you to use your number line. All right, let's do 6 plus negative 3. All right, so we start. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And when we add a negative 3, we go negative 1, 2, 3. So the answer is positive 3. Okay, let's try some more, because this is different, and I want to do enough of them for you to see what's happening before I tell you. All right, let's do negative 8 plus 10. Yeah, that equals. All right, let's start at 0. Go to negative 8. And then we're going 10 steps in the positive direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The answer is positive 2. Okay, are you getting it? All right, let's do 9 plus negative 8. All right, how many of you can already write that answer down? Okay, let's go with 0 to positive 9. Then we go 8 steps in the negative direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The answer is positive 1. All right. So I'm going to put 1 up here, and I'm going to see if you can do this without your number line, just to see. You may or may not be able to, but we will see. Let's do negative 4 plus positive 7. All right. I'm going to pause a minute and let you do that. How many of you could write the answer without using the number line? And that's what we want to do. Because let's face it, we can't walk around with the number line every time we have to add something. So we want to know how to add without that number line. But I'm using the number line so that you can understand how it happens and why it happens. All right, what answer did you get? Hopefully you got positive 3. All right, let's take one that is not on your number line and see if you can do that. Negative 30 plus 20. I'm waiting because I want you to do that. And let's see if you can get the correct answer. Correct sum, because we are finding sums today so far. All right, negative 30 plus 20 is negative 10. If you got that, hit me with a yes. Let me know. I can't know if you're understanding it if I don't hear from you. Negative 10. All right. So let's see what is happening here. All right. In some cases we get a negative. Some cases we get a positive answer. And how does that happen? Let's do one more. I want to do negative 6 plus 12. All right. See if you can just write the answer without number line. If you can, you're getting it. All right, so we go negative 6, and we go 10 steps over to positive 12. Not to positive 12, but 12 positive steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So did you get positive 6? Did you get positive 6? Okay, so how do we say what's really happening? All right, let's talk about each one of these because I want to make sure you really understand this. We're adding negative 3 and positive 4. And the answer is positive. We know the answer is 1. Well, why is it positive? Because what we did here, we went, the absolute value of 4, positive 4 is 4. And the absolute value of negative 3 is 3. And so really, we really just subtracted 4 minus 3, and we got 1. Okay? Do not say, well, when I get here, I'm going to tell you something that I don't want you to say. All right? So actually what we did, and we kept the sign of the one that had the largest absolute value. Let's see what happened here. We have 3 plus negative 5. All right? So the absolute value of 3 is 3, and the absolute value of negative 5 is 5. Do not say that negative 5 is bigger than 3, so I'm going to subtract 5 minus 3. That is not it. Negative 5 is less than negative 3, but the absolute value of negative 5 is 5. And the absolute value of positive 3 is 3. So 5 minus 3 is 2. And why is it negative? Because the larger absolute value is negative. We went into the negative section deeper than we did the positive. So let's see if it works here. The absolute value of 6 is positive 6. And the absolute value of 3 is negative 3. And 6 minus 3 is 3. And it's positive because the absolute value, the larger absolute value is 6, which is positive. All right, let's go through them all because this is something I really want you to get. Negative 8 plus 10 is positive 2. The absolute value of negative 8 is 8. The absolute value of positive 10 is 10. 10 minus 8 is 2. And it's positive because the integer with the larger absolute value is positive. All right, and so we could go through all of them just like that. All right, I hope you understand that. But I'm going to put this up so that we can go through this and be sure that you write it down and be sure that you understand it. And then we're going to do a few more before we go to subtraction. All right, adding integers. All right, and you may want to write this down, so I'm going to talk and while you are writing, because you need to have something to look back at. All right, when we add integers, when we add two positives, the sum is positive, and we merely add the numbers. When we're adding two negatives, the sum is negative, and we merely add the absolute values of those two numbers. When we're adding a positive and a negative, the sign of the integer with the largest absolute value is the sign that we have in our answer. And we merely subtract the absolute values, take the larger absolute value minus the smaller. And I'm going to put the absolute symbols here so that you know that I mean absolute. So when I put this here, that means the absolute small, the one that's absolute value, the larger absolute value minus the smaller absolute value. All right, so I'm giving you a chance to get that down in your notes. And then we're going to try to do some without the number line. See if you can do them without the number line. And then you will know you understand. Remember, adding two positives, you get a positive, and it's just the sum of the numbers. Adding two negatives, its answer is negative, of course, because you went all the way into only negatives. But when you have a positive and a negative, the sign is the sign of the integer that has a larger absolute value. And you subtract the absolute values, the larger absolute value minus the smaller. How simple can that get? All right, I'm going to leave that up, and I'm going to put a couple of ones up here and see if you can do them without the number line. I'm going to use some numbers that maybe are a little larger so that they're probably not on your number line. All right, let's do 15 plus 10. All right, let's do 25 plus negative 5. Okay. Let's do 50 plus, I didn't write negative, this should be negative 5. 50 plus negative 25. And let's see which ones I did not do. Okay. 16 plus negative 18. All right, let's try those without the number line. I know your number line probably is not large enough to have these many numbers on there. And let's just see if you can do that. Let's see, it's one more that I don't have. Okay. I'm going to make this well, I'll just put another one on. We'll just do these, and I'll put another type on that I don't have on yet. All right, positive plus a positive is a positive sum, and we add the integers. The negative plus a negative is a negative sum, and we add the absolute values of those integers. When we have a positive and a negative, the sign is the sign of the integer with the largest absolute value. And we subtract the larger absolute value minus the smaller. And vice versa. If the negative has the larger, then the answer will be negative, larger absolute value. If the positive has the larger absolute value, then the answer is positive. Very easy. And should not be any confusion. All right, 15. Now, every time you go to these numbers, let's say positive and negative. So let's get used to that. From now on, we'll say positive and negative. Positive 15 plus positive 10. And we don't have to write the positive sign. But the answer is positive what? 25. Added two positives. The sum is positive, and we added the numbers. All right, here we have a positive 25 plus a negative 5. So the absolute value of 25 is the largest, so the answer is going to be positive. And the absolute value of negative 5 is 5. So 25 minus 5 is 20. And I usually tell my students to check the sign out first because you tend to forget to put the sign there. All right, positive 50 plus negative 25. The sum is going to be positive because the absolute value of 50 is larger than the absolute value, or greater than the absolute value of 25. So we have 50, the absolute value of 50, minus the absolute value of 25. 50 minus 25 is 25. All right, and then we have 16 plus negative 18. The sum is going to be negative because the number with the larger absolute value is negative, which is 18, negative 18. So I always make sure I write that first. And now I have to subtract the absolute values. The absolute value of negative 18 is 18. 18 minus 16 is negative 2. All right. I hope you got all of those right, but I need to put a couple of more on so that you can do this and do it with ease. It's positives plus positive. The sum is positive, and we add. Negative plus a negative. The absolute value is the sum is negative, and we add. Positive plus a negative. Then we take the sign of the integer with the largest absolute value, and then subtract the absolute values, larger from the smaller. All right, so let's do a few more that I don't have up here already. Some other types. I'm going to erase these two because I know we're finished with those. All right, so now let's add negative 16 plus negative 10. Okay, and let's do 12 plus negative 12 plus negative 18. All right, so I hope you're not using your number line. I hope now that you see what happens, and now you can just do it. It's nothing to it. It's easy. All right. I'm sure everyone has finished the first one by now. Negative 16 plus negative 10. The sum is negative because both values are negative. And we add the absolute value. 16 plus 10 is 26. So the sum is negative 26. Do not say minus 26. It's not minus. This use of the minus sign is when we're saying what type of number it is whether the integer is positive or negative. And there's a difference. I've heard someone saying on TV, I heard someone saying minus 2 degrees. That's not correct. We say negative 2 degrees. Minus is an operation, and negative is the symbol that tells us whether the number is positive or negative. All right, 12 plus negative 18. All right, we need to see what the sign of the answer is going to be. Is it positive or negative? It's negative because 18 has the greater absolute value. Absolute value of 18 is 18. Absolute value of 12 is 12. All right, so 18 is negative. So the answer, the sum, is going to be negative. And now we subtract. 18 minus 12 is 6. So the answer, or the sum, is negative 6. All right. So hopefully you have gotten that. It's easy. And don't say I say it's easy because I'm the teacher. It's easy for you as well. Going over it again, a positive plus a positive is a positive sum, and we merely add the integers. A negative plus a negative is a negative, and we add. When there's a positive and a negative, we determine the sign by looking at the integers that we have. The sign is always the sign of the integer with the largest absolute value. And then we subtract the larger absolute value minus the smaller. I want to make that clear because sometimes when we get to something like this, we'll say, well, 18 is bigger than 12. No. Negative 18 is not bigger than 12. It's small. It's way over on the negative side. All right, so what we're saying here, the absolute value, that's the distance 18 is from 0, is 18. And the distance 12 is from 0 is 12. So we father in on the negative side. And so the answer is negative. All right, if you have questions, you may shoot them to me. As I say, I don't know. One thing about tutoring this way, I don't know whether my students are getting it or not, but I try to make it as clear as possible. All right, if you got that, tell me you got it. That certainly gives me a feeling that you are keeping up with what I'm doing. All right, we have a few more minutes, so I may not be able to finish this, but I'm going to start subtraction of integers. All right, so let's do some, we already know how to do 6, positive 6 minus 3, positive 3. We need, okay, 7 minus positive 5. Okay, 9 minus positive, no, I want to keep something that I can use for my number line before I go into that. All right, let's do 8 minus 6. Let's do 5 minus 1. And these are easy. I'm getting these up here because I want you to get used to using the number line for subtraction. All right, this is positive 6 minus positive 3. All right, and so, and this may right here, this minus sign gets a new meaning. And the new meaning is the opposite of 6 minus the opposite of positive 3. 6 minus the opposite of positive 3. All right, this sign now tells us to go the opposite of positive 3. All right, so we go from 0, 6. All right, and the opposite of positive 3 is negative 3. So we go 1, 2, 3 steps. And so the sum is positive 3. All right, once you get used to another meaning of the minus sign. All right, this is the minus sign this time. This is not negative. This is the operation that we are doing. All right, 7, positive 7 minus positive 5 means 7 minus the opposite of negative 5, of 5. All right, so we go 7, and instead of going 5 positive, we got to go the opposite. We're taking away 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're at positive 2. All right, positive 8 minus 6. 8 minus the opposite of 6. In other words, we're not going positive 6. We're going the opposite of positive 6, which is negative 6. I want you to keep that in mind because that's a new thinking that you have to do for this. And next week, we'll see how it really works for some other numbers. All right, so we go from 0 to 8. And then we go the opposite of positive 6, which is 6 negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, so the answer is again positive 2. All right, and 5 minus 1, we know the answer is 4. This difference is 4, but let's use the number line to show it. All right, we go 0 to 5, and we go the opposite of positive 1, which is 1 over, and the answer is positive 4. All right? All right, so what I have said, that 6 minus 3 means it's the same, then it's the same thing we did when we were adding. Because when we have 6 plus negative 3, the answer is 3. So we're really doing what we did when we added. 6 plus the opposite of 3. 6 plus negative 3 is 3. All right, here we have 7 minus 5. So, okay, we went to 7 and then 5 over from here, and we get 2. All right, so that's the same thing we did when we were adding. So that's 7 plus the opposite of 5, which is 7 plus 9, negative 5, equals 2. We just learned how to do that. All right, 8 minus 6 means 8 plus the opposite of 6, which is negative 6, and that equals 2. We just learned how to do that. And it's the same motion that we're doing. All right, so we're really not learning a new operation. We're really doing it with the operation of adding that we just learned. Okay, and so we have 5 plus the opposite of 1, which is negative 1, and that equals 4. Okay. So if I had one up here like 8 minus 12, challenge you. See if you can do that one. And if you can't, I'm going to go to something like that. But just to see how many of you really got the idea. Because really, you're adding the opposite of the number following the minus sign. All right, the minus sign is here. This is not negative. These are minus signs. All of these are positive numbers I'm working with right now because I'm going to put some negatives up a little later. All right, so that should be then, if you did that, 8 plus the opposite of negative 12. So that's like adding 8 and negative 12. Okay, so the answer is negative. The difference is negative because the absolute value of 12 is larger than the absolute value of 8. Absolute value of 12 is 12. Of 8 is a positive 8 is 8. Then we subtract the absolute value of 12 minus sign, the opposite of the number following the minus sign. All right, so let's put some other numbers up and see how this works with some other numbers. I try not to erase too soon because sometimes I've had instructors that wrote on the board and they erased before I could get the notes. So I don't want to be guilty of doing that. So I try to erase from the top to give you a chance to get everything on. All right, so let's do some others. Let's say we want to do negative 6 minus 2. All right, negative 5 minus 6. All right, just to start. Time is running out, so I'm going to be sure we finish this. All right, so we start at 0. Use your number line. Go to negative 6. Here we are. Minus 2. So that's the opposite of positive 2. So that's 1, 2. So the result is negative 8. How in the world do we get negative 8? And we're subtracting because we start out with negative 6. Okay, so I'm going to go to negative 6. Start at 0, go to negative 6. And says we're going the opposite of negative. We got positive 2, which is 2 more. Okay, so the answer is negative 6. And this is just what we did when we were adding. Actually, it's negative 6 plus negative 2 is negative 8. All right, so actually subtraction really ends up being the same as addition, but it's addition of the opposite. So see if you can give me the answer for negative 5 minus positive 6. Negative 5 minus positive 6. All right, you can do it with the number line, but some of you probably now can do it without the number line because you saw what happened in the one before. All right, negative 5. So we go from 0 to negative 5. That's right here. Plus, let's see, we're going the opposite of, since this says go the opposite of 6. Opposite of positive 6 is negative 6. So we're going 6 over, and of course I don't have 11 over here, but 5 plus 6 is 11. All right, so we have 11, and it's negative 11. All right, so now how could we do it without the number line? Because we're certainly not going to carry the number line around. So we have negative 5 plus the opposite of positive 6, which is negative 6. and we're adding two negatives. And of course the answer is negative 11. How easy is that? All right? So what we're seeing for subtraction then is that we're really doing the same physical process that we're doing for addition. So we can write it as addition, and we don't have to learn any new signs. We've already learned how to add. A positive plus a positive is a positive sum, and we add the numbers. A negative plus a negative is a negative sum, and we add the numbers. When we have a positive and a negative, like here, we take the absolute value of each of them, and we subtract, and we use the sign of the number that has the larger absolute value. So how simple can that get? All right, I know we need much more work on that, but I want you to write down the process that we use so that you can apply it. Next week, I will do part 2 of investigating integers. We will investigate them further. All right, subtracting integers. We add the opposite of the integer after the minus sign. And the sign, of course, if we're adding, I don't have to tell you anything else because we've already learned how to add a positive and a negative. And we learned how to add two positives, and we learned how to add two negatives. Add the opposite of the integer after the minus sign. Nothing happens to the first integer, so let's get that straight. It's the integer after the minus sign. Like 8 minus 12. This is the 12, positive 12. So the opposite of positive 12 is negative 12. So subtracting integers is simply add the opposite of the integer after the minus sign. We add that plus the other integers. And once we get all of this, we'll be able to simplify expressions easily and get the signs properly done. Adding and subtracting integers is not difficult. Let's keep a positive attitude. Use your number line as long as you need to, but after a while you should not need the number line. So use the number line, use small numbers until you really get it. But then put some larger numbers up and challenge yourself. It's important that you go online and get some examples of adding and subtracting integers so that you can become a masterful addition and subtracting. Masterful in addition and subtracting integers. It's easy. Keep that in your mind. It's not confusing. Keep that in your mind. You can do it as well as I can do it. I hope you have understood today's lesson, and next week we will continue with investigating integers. Integers are really exciting. So let's learn to love integers. And we have to multiply and divide them next week after we review addition and subtraction. I'm going to give you a little quiz first to see if you have practiced and remember how to do it. And then from there, we'll include multiplication and division. Have a great week and keep investigating those integers.